History is full of ghosts, lost ships, vanished explorers, treasures that slipped through time. For decades, one such ghost haunted Argentina's coastal wetlands. A German U-boat from Hitler's wolf packs, supposedly never surrendered. Local whispers passed down from grandparents, a sleek gray predator, gliding through the murky Parana Delta near the war's end. Easy to dismiss, a phantom of the fog. The Parana Delta is a world unto itself. It's a sprawling, semi-aquatic wilderness north of Buenos Aires, a maze of rivers, streams, marshlands covering thousands of square miles. This is not where you expect to find a relic of European warfare. You expect to find capybaras, exotic birds, maybe the occasional jaguar. The landscape is a living, breathing entity, constantly changing. Islands form and disappear with the floods. Channels that were once navigable become clogged with silt and reeds. For our team, led by renowned historical investigator Dr. Arian Hess, this presented an incredible challenge. Official records listed the U-boat as lost at sea, but Hess was convinced the real story was waiting to be unearthed. How do you find a steel needle in a haystack that's the size of a small country? The search began from space, poring over decades of satellite imagery for any sign of disturbance. The key was to stop thinking like marine archaeologists and start thinking like forensic detectives. They were investigating a 70-year-old crime scene. A U-boat couldn't just vanish. It would have left a mark, a geological scar in the terrain, however faint after so many years. This forensic approach led them to a specific remote area of the delta known to locals as the Laguna Negra, or Black Lagoon, a place that featured prominently in local folklore. It was a notoriously difficult place to access, surrounded by impenetrable mangrove thickets and shallow, muddy waters that seemed determined to keep their secrets. The legends were strongest here. Old fishermen claimed that for years after the war, strange, twisted metal objects would sometimes surface in their nets. They spoke of an unnatural stillness in the lagoon, a place where the wildlife seemed oddly quiet, as if something massive was resting just beneath the surface, a cold steel tomb. We loaded the equipment onto shallow draft boats and began a painstaking grid search of the Black Lagoon. Day after day, we crisscrossed the murky water, the machines humming, our eyes glued to the monitors. For weeks the results were disappointing. We found submerged logs, geological anomalies, what might have been an old barge. The swamp was fighting us every step of the way. Then, it happened. On a sweltering afternoon, the magnetometer shrieked to life. We had detected a massive, dense metallic object buried deep in the silt. It was long and cylindrical, measuring nearly 250 feet from end to end. The shape was unmistakable. The real work, and the real mystery, was just beginning. Pinpointing the submarine's location was one thing, getting it out was another. The vessel was buried under 15 feet of dense, waterlogged silt and clay. This wasn't an archaeological dig, it was a massive engineering project. The team had to build a temporary causeway to bring in heavy equipment. Excavators pumps a massive coffer dam. Slowly, the black water of the lagoon was drawn down, revealing a thick, primordial soup of mud and decaying vegetation. As the water level dropped, the top of the U-boat's conning tower was the first thing to break the surface. It was an electrifying moment. Once the water was gone, the real dirty work began. They couldn't just use shovels. The mud had to be carefully removed layer by layer, almost like a paleontological dig. They used high-pressure water hoses to gently wash away the silt, revealing more of the submarine structure. The hull was remarkably well preserved. The cold, oxygen-poor mud had acted as a natural preservative. They uncovered the deck gun, still pointing defiantly towards the sky. Finally, after weeks of careful excavation, the entire submarine lay exposed in its muddy cradle. It was a Type Ike C-40 U-boat, a long-range hunter designed for operations far from home. Its gray paint was mostly gone, replaced by a patina of rust and aquatic growth, but it was whole. The next step was to get inside. The first look inside was provided by a remote camera on a flexible fiber optic cable. We huddled around the monitor, watching as the tiny lens probed the darkness. The view was surreal. The gauges and dials on the control panel still visible under a layer of slime. Narrow corridors, crew's bunks, the galley where meals were once prepared. It was eerily silent and still, a moment frozen in time. In the radio room, they found communication logs laid out on the desk, a dress uniform hung neatly in a locker. A heavy, securely locked door, a clear and deliberate modification, blocked their path. It wasn't part of the original U-boat design, suggesting a secret compartment added for a very specific purpose. It took the engineering team the better part of a grueling day to bypass it. They had to drill through layers of hardened steel, a formidable barrier that consumed their best equipment. Diamond-tipped bits screamed in protest, glowing red-hot. Inside the cramped submarine, the anticipation was immense, a palpable tension filling the stale air. When the door finally swung open, it didn't reveal glittering gold bars or stolen art. The hold was filled with dozens of large, hermetically sealed metal crates, arranged with military precision. An inventory list, stamped with the eagle and swastika, was posted on the bulkhead, confirming the cargo's origin. The contents were not treasures, but technology. Crate after crate was filled with advanced scientific equipment, electron microscopes, mass spectrometers, and high-frequency radio transmitters. There were schematics for jet engines, blueprints for advanced rocketry systems, and research notes detailing chillingly advanced experiments in nuclear physics. This was the scientific soul of the Third Reich, a technological ghost meant to rise again. The most stunning find was in the last crate we opened. It didn't contain blueprints or equipment, it contained biological samples. Dozens of vials were suspended in cryogenic preservation fluid, inside a sophisticated insulated container. The labels were written in a complex scientific shorthand, but the team's biologist immediately recognized some of the terms. They were samples of advanced, weaponized pathogens, strains of anthrax, botulism, and other diseases that had been engineered for increased virulence and resistance. It was a biological arsenal. The Nazis weren't just trying to save their rocket science, they were trying to save their most terrifying secret weapons. The crate was quickly secured by international authorities. We had found something far more dangerous than gold. The moment the news broke, it sent shockwaves around the globe, challenging accepted history. The initial reaction from the public and academic community was disbelief. For local communities, however, it was vindication. Generations-old whispers of a phantom submarine, long dismissed as folklore, were suddenly proven true. To counter the skepticism, the team held a press conference, releasing irrefutable evidence. High-resolution images and video from inside the submarine, silencing critics with undeniable proof. We showed the world the conning tower breaking the surface, a metallic ghost rising from its watery grave. This wasn't just a scuttled vessel. Our Piranha Delta find was like a U-234 that completed its mission, a ghost that delivered its payload and vanished into the swamp. Its existence provides powerful evidence for the rat lines, clandestine escape routes for high-ranking officials after the war. What was once conjecture now had a rusted steel hull as proof. It's a tangible link in a chain of secret operations, raising profound questions about who was on board and who was waiting. The find forced a fundamental reevaluation of the immediate post-war period, suggesting the war's end wasn't as clear-cut as history told us. The unearthing of the Piranha Delta U-boat is more than just the discovery of a lost vessel. It's the discovery of a lost chapter of history. Historians are combing archives, intelligence agencies are studying the recovered schematics, trying to determine if this technology seeded the Cold War's arms race. The Piranha Delta U-boat is a physical monument to a desperate secret plan, a final audacious gambit by a falling empire, its full story still waiting to be told.